Thanks everyone for coming to the talk. My name is Jerrel Mardis, and I'm here to talk to you about the Android navigation framework that was released at Google I/O last year. So before I get started, I want to give a little bit of background about me. I'm from Chicago. I'm an Android developer at Salesforce. I've been building apps for Android for roughly 10 years now. I'm a GDE for Android, and I'm an organizer for the Google Developer Group Chicago West, as well as the Chicago Roboto Conference. Has anyone here been to Chicago Roboto Conference? Awesome. It's a great conference if you're in the Chicagoland area. So before I get started, who here has any experience using the navigation framework? Okay. Has anyone heard of it before? All right, cool. So I think this will be actually useful for a lot of you out there then. So with there being a ton of navigation frameworks out there, what makes this navigation framework any different? Why is it important? Why should we use it as an Android developer? So Google, they set out to try to improve some pain points when you're dealing with fragments and just different navigating through different parts of your app. So namely, they wanted to set out to fix fragment transactions, dealing with animations. So if you ever dealt with fragments before, when you try to animate a fragment, sometimes you run into issues depending on how you structure your call to commit that fragment transaction. They want to provide an easier way to deal with deep links, as well as provide a type-safe way to pass arguments. Also, they want to greatly improve the backstack behavior. So if you ever used... oh, okay. Oh, can you all still hear me? Okay, sound much better now. Cool. So they also wanted to improve the backstack management and also testing. So that's why they came up with the navigation framework. So the navigation framework provides a declarative approach to building out your navigational structure in your app. It helps to manage the backstack. It makes the back button and the up button makes that behavior a bit more consistent, and it simplifies animations when you're dealing with fragments. It also removes the need to actually even mess with fragment transactions. Like I mentioned before, when you're dealing with fragments, dealing with fragment transactions is a bit of a pain. I mean, they even have a method called commit allow state loss, which basically says basically add this fragment and whatever happens, if anything bad happens, just don't worry about it. I don't really care. I mean, it's not the greatest API. And finally, it provides a way to pass arguments to your fragments in a type-safe way. So let's go over a little bit some of the components that makes up the navigation framework. So there's this concept of a graph and nested graphs. And a graph is just a file that describes your navigational structure in an app. It's just an XML file. Then you have your nav host, and your nav host will, you can think of that as your container that will swap fragments in and out. You have your destination, which is essentially your view. It can be a fragment or it can be an activity. And you have actions. And I like to think of actions as a bridge to your different destinations. This bridge can carry along data. You can provide behaviors for your actions. And I'll go over a lot of these during the demo section and the following slides. So diving a little bit deeper, we have our navigation graph. Again, it's an XML file which describes your navigational structure. This is where it houses all of your information, your actions, your destinations, animations, deep links, things like that. And this, what we have right here, is just a sample navigation file. You can see here we have the navigation object as well as our destination, which is our fragment and an action. So now we have our navigation destination. And your navigation destination is, again, just a screen in your app. It can be a fragment or an activity. And in our case, our destination is the fragment itself. All right. Now you have your navigation host, and your host is where, this is just an empty view where it will host your fragments that are swapped in and out of the activity. Now the framework provides a navigation host fragment, so this isn't something you have to necessarily build yourself. you can actually just plop in a fragment, set the type to be a navigation host fragment or nav host fragment, and you'll get all the behavior that's built into the framework. So we can see here, this is just a layout file, and this is a simple fragment, and our navigation host, this is where we're actually setting it. You have your name there. We set the default nav host to true, and basically we're telling the system like, hey, I don't want to worry about dealing with the back or the up behavior. I want you to take care of that, so you don't have to build in, put in any specific logic to handle that. Then you have your nav graph. So again, your nav graph is just your XML file which describes your navigational structure in your app. And so this is where we're telling the nav host, this is the nav graph to use for this section of the app. So let's take a step back for a second. So up until this point, I've talked about a single activity, or right now, or we've only talked about a single activity. And so how does this actually fit going forward? So up until this point, Google, they've kind of recommended us to have multiple activities, multiple fragments, multiple views in an app. But since Google I/O 2018, they're kind of promoting this single activity approach, where your activity is the entry point into your app. So you have your main activity, and you would have your navigational graph that you use, where you can swap in and out your fragments, and you just allow your navigation host to manage all that for you. So it's a little bit different. I think this is a better approach because it makes things a little bit easier when you're dealing with animations. If any of you have ever tried to use like the shared element transitions or deal with any different animations between different activities, it can be a little bit cumbersome sometimes, and you can run into like weird issues with the transaction binder, payload being too large if you want to pass things between activities, or you may just have weird exceptions and just crashes with animating between different activities. So I think this is actually a better approach, and hopefully going forward, this framework is fleshed out a little bit more, where you can do more things, and more people actually use this, because going with a single activity approach is, I think, a little bit cleaner. And I would say probably most apps can live with just being one or two activities. So going back to the different components of the navigation framework, now you have your navigation actions. Again, this is your bridge between your destinations. Again, you can define your up and back behavior, your pop behavior, as well as animations and things like that. Here's an example of an action. So in this example, you can see I'm defining pop enter behavior, pop exit, enter exit, and I'm defining the destination. So basically, if you were to execute this action, where do I want to take the user? In my case, I want to go to a register destination. So finally, how do we actually pass data between destinations? So it's actually pretty simple. So this is a snippet from the navigation graph, and this is where this argument right here, this object, I'm actually passing a username to the destination, and I'm providing a default value of name. So when you actually want to use this in code, what you simply do is you would get your reference to whatever data that you want to pass to your destination, and you want to envelop that in a bundle. So basically wrap that in a bundle. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm getting the username for my data set. You get a reference to your navigation controller, and then you call the navigate method, and you pass in your action as well as your bundle. And again, I'll go more in detail on this during the demo, but that's basically how you pass data to it. Now, to receive the data, you just use the typical manner that you do now, where you get your arguments, a reference to your arguments, and you can pull that data from your arguments bundle. Now, deep linking is actually pretty simple when you're using a navigation framework. To do that, you simply add your deep link object to your destination, which I'm doing here, and my URI is this one right here. And once you do that, you then need to add in your navigation graph to your activity. So you can see there, I'm adding the nav graph object to the activity object, and basically what this would do during build time, the correct intent filters will be created during build time, so you don't have to do that yourself. All right, so let's take a look at some code. Let's see if we can do this in roughly 15 minutes. So let's start here. Let's create a new project. And we're gonna create an empty project. Let's name it DevFest FL2. All right. All right, cool. So I created my project. So now what I want to do is, the first thing I want to do, I want to go to my main activities layout file. And here, the cool thing with the editor is that I could just plop in my navigation host fragment. So if you go to containers here, can everyone see that? No? Okay, let me go into presentation mode. Let's see, hopefully that's a little bit better. Oh wait, what did that just do? Yeah. Well, there's more seats closer to the screen. Sorry about that. But so let's see, where did that? Oh, there it is. Okay, never mind. Sorry about that. So it's actually there, just hidden. So I'll click on containers here. So hopefully everyone can see that now. But what you can do now, you can drag in your nav host fragment. What this will do, this will bring up a wizard where you can create your navigation resource. So what I'm going to do here, I'll say new navigation file. I'll name it nav graph. And yep, that just asked me if it should add the dependency necessary to build this. And I said yes. Okay, that didn't add it there. Let me add it one more time. Okay, there we go. Cool. So I'm going to just take this right here. Just clean up some of this code. All right, perfect. Okay, so I have my nav host fragment is all set up. As you can see, then I'll go to my nav graph, and let's just take a look at that. So you can see here the nav graph, actually there's nothing contained in it. So the first thing that we want to do, let's add a destination, and let's see if we can go from one fragment to another pretty easily. So I'll click on, you can see here there's a little icon with a green plus button on it, or plus sign. So I'll click on that, I'll click create new destination, and I'll just name this blank fragment 1. All right, so that actually does a few things for us. So it creates the destination for us in the nav graph file, and it actually creates the file itself. It creates the blank fragment itself. Yep, you all can see that. All right. And so let me go back here. Let me go back to the design. And I'll add another blank fragment. Oh, this does not play well with presentation mode. Here. I'm going to exit presentation mode for the moment. So I'll add one more, blank fragment 2. And then once we get to the necessary code, I'll go into presentation mode so it's a little bit clearer for everyone. So now I have two blank fragments, or two destinations. They don't do anything special, but essentially what's happened now is that two blank fragments have been created, their associated layout files have been created, and to create an action to link these two, there's a handle here that hopefully everyone can see. If I were to just drag that to the second fragment, it creates that action for me. So on the right, we can see here we have a list of attributes. So you have your type ID, the destination, animations, pop behaviors, things like that. So we'll play with those in a second. But what I want to do is see if I can simply go from fragment 1 to fragment 2. So to do that, from the graphical editor, you can actually double click on the first destination, and it takes you to the layout file for that fragment. And in there, I could go in here and let me just go to presentation mode, and let's convert that to a button. Give it an ID. All right, and then let's just center this guy. All right, go to fragment 2. All right, so we just have one button there that says go to fragment 2. All right, so what I'll do now is I'll go to my blank fragment 1, and I'll create the code to actually navigate to that fragment. So I have my fragment 1. I'll create an unclick listener. So the first thing you want to do when you want to navigate or go to another destination, you have to get a reference to your navigation class and then find the navigation controller, and then that's where you can call the navigate method. So from here, I can do navigation.find nav controller, provided the view, and then say navigate to my action, which is called something really long, but let's just change that to fragment 2. Come on, update. There we go. All right, so now I have that set up. So let's run the app. Okay, so if I click this, it should take me to the second fragment. So nice. So actually, it takes me to the next fragment, which is pretty awesome. So let's do something a little bit fancier here. Let's go back here and let's go into our nav graph. Let's see how easy it is to add an animation. So with the power of copy and paste, I'm going to copy a few animations that I've already copied from a different place. Add that there. And if you have any questions about animations, Stacy is right there. Okay, cool. So, all right, so now I copied over a bunch of different animations to the resource directory. So I have blink, bounce, fade in, fade out, etc. So if I go to the nav graph, you can see here we have those now show up in the drop down. So you can, let's do a zoom in when you enter. So now when I run the app, and you click on go to fragment 2, the text should zoom in, which it did, but it went off the screen. So let's just fix that really quick. All right. So cool. So you see how easy it is to add an animation. It's much better than before, at least I personally think. So let's try to see if we can add in, or at least pass some arguments to a destination. So there are a couple different ways you can do this. So one way is I could simply go to my nav graph and click on my destination and then add an argument this way. But that's really not a type-safe way to do that. So what I'm actually going to use, I'm going to use the Gradle Safe Args plugin. So to do that, there's a couple things you need to do. You need to add in a couple of dependencies. So I'll go here and just grab a couple. Let's grab that. All right, so the first one is you have to add in a class path dependency for the SafeArgs plugin, and then you have to apply add the apply plugin call to your apps Gradle file. All right, so apply the plugins there, then I'll sync. And what this will essentially do, so when you add arguments, what it's going to do is going to build, is going to generate a couple classes for you where you can safely call methods on those classes and pass in the types and grab the actual values using those classes. So if I go back to the nav graph, I'll add an argument here, and let's just say name. The type is string, and then I'll leave this blank. All right, and in here, I'll go ahead and now just add in text view. Let's make this a linear layout and clean some things up. Okay, cool. So now there should be some classes. So you see here I have a class called blank fragment 1 directions. So by using the SafeArgs plugin, what it'll do, it actually generated this class for me. So there should be a directions class, or whatever your fragment name is, suffix with the word directions, and then there should be another one with whatever your destination is, suffix with args. So in our case, we want to use the blank fragment directions to build our action. All right, and then go to fragment 2, and let me just, sometimes I've run into issues with it not actually generating things at the right time, so sometimes you may just have to do a build so that it fully generates the classes for you. So this class should take a name. Let's go here. Let's see. Okay, yeah, it is there. Yep. Okay. Cool. So we can see here there's a toFragment function, and it takes a name. So actually, I need to set the ID on the plain text to get that first. So to get that value, so let's go ahead and do that. Actually, it's already there. So just get edit text. And let's do edit text. All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm building the action, and I'm using the value from the text property of the edit text. And what I'll do is I'll use that action to navigate to instead of using the reference ID. So once I do this, this will actually pass the value or whatever values you set up with your directions class. It'll pass it to your destination. Nope. All right, so let's go to blank fragment. let's override onView created, and let's modify this so that we can actually set the text. So I'll get rid of the text here because I want to pass the data to it, and then I need to assign an ID. I'll just put name, make it simple. Oops. So now you see here there's a blank fragment to args dot from bundle. Oops. And I'll just do that for now. And now there is a name property. Oops. Oh, wait, no. Oh. What am I missing there? Let's see. Oh, did I not? Huh. Interesting. And let's see here for a second. Did I mess something up? That is a text view. Interesting. That's really weird. Okay, so I'm not sure why that's not working. Oh, wait. This should be name, sorry. There we go. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'll just put my name here, Jerrel, and nothing. Well, why is that? What did I miss here? Oh, no, that's the action there. Let's debug that for a second, because I'm curious why that's actually not working. Name. Let's see here. I just want to see why this isn't working. So bear with me here. Oh, Wait a minute. Okay, sorry. There we go. I was modifying the wrong project, so that should be good now. So there we go. So now we can see Jerrel. That actually took a lot longer than it should have. So yeah, so it's actually not too bad when you don't make mistakes like that to do this. But I'm not sure. I think I run a little short on time, but there's a few other things that I want to go over, but I'll actually just explain those. So you can pass in global actions. So if you wanted to reuse actions, or you wanted multiple destinations to reuse actions, you can set that up here, as well as deep links. And you can just use the plus sign here to open up the wizard to create those to use in your app. So that's pretty much it for the demo. Let me go back to here. And so the question remains, is it useful? I think if you don't make mistakes like me, I think it actually is pretty useful. But when you're working on this on your own, you see that you can spin up a lot of different screens or views pretty quickly. So imagine if you have a wizard that you want to, or like a login flow. It's really simple to create a nav graph for that and have the users go through that flow and create different graphs. So it makes things a lot easier. Do I think that this is the only approach you should take? No, I don't think it's the only approach. I don't think it's a silver bullet to solving the navigation problem in Android, but I think it does solve some of the common issues with it. And I think hopefully this was useful to you all. I think when I went through this initially and read about it and started playing with it, I was a little bit skeptical as to, should I trust another framework that uses fragments? I think this has kind of converted me over to playing a little bit, or at least playing with this a little bit more and using fragments a little bit more, since it's so simple to just spin these up. So yeah, with that, that is it for my talk. If you have any other questions, please feel free to ask. I'm not sure how much more time we have, but yeah, hopefully this was pretty useful. Thank you.